Hello, Mark Sott of HurricaneTrack.com here along the side of Highway 17 near Washington, North Carolina. Ain't technology grand? I can put this together sitting in my Chevy Tahoe. Nice and quiet. There's no traffic. You hear that? There's nothing out there. It's almost 11 o'clock Eastern time, 10 minutes till 11. And I thought I would go over what's happening with Hurricane Maria real quick. The latest from the National Hurricane Center. First of all, look at Lee before we get to Maria. Lee regains some strength over the open Atlantic. The overachieving hurricane here, 90-mile-per-hour winds. But notice that the air pressure with Lee here is 979 millibars, while the pressure with Maria is 10 millibars lower at 969, and yet the wind speed is lower with Maria. Why the difference? Well, we can look at the satellite picture and I can show you the wind field of giant Hurricane Maria has a lot of energy spread out over a large area, let's put it that way, whereas the wind field and the concentrated deep thunderstorm activity around the core of Lee is concentrated around a much smaller area, and it's just more potent. Packing a bigger punch with a higher pressure because there's more deep thunderstorm activity concentrated near the core than we have with Maria here, which is just a large, spread out, but very dangerous storm. You say, well, why is Maria dangerous? The winds here, as we saw, they're down to 80 miles per hour now. And so why is that still so dangerous? Well, we're going to talk about that. It is moving north at 7 miles per hour. And like I said, the winds are 80 miles per hour, so it's still a hurricane. And if we look at the public advisory here, I want to get an idea of the bearing and what they are expecting in terms of hazards impacting land. So it's moving due north now, or 360 degrees. So it's not moving at 355 or 350. It's moving due north according to the latest information. And that longitude line there, 73.1, as long as this isn't able to get over to 74 longitude, then I think the strongest winds will stay offshore of the Outer Banks. But it's not the wind that I am concerned about. I mean, that'll be an issue, but the bigger issue, if we look at the hazards impacting or affecting, as they say here, hazards affecting land, certainly some tropical storm conditions, as mentioned here, but the storm surge definitely, I think, is going to be an issue, 2 to 4 feet of inundation, but not just the surge where you have water rising above what they say normally dry areas near the coast there. Trying to underline it, I guess. But the wave action really is going to be something, and we're going to have some breached dune systems, flooding of Highway 12. And as I mentioned, this is going to be a relatively small area, geographically speaking. There goes a car zipping past me. This is the 8 o'clock intermediate advisory map. The tracking map hasn't changed that much, but it's this very small area here along the coast of eastern North Carolina. And granted, geographically, we're not talking about a huge impact, but for these people, it most certainly is a big deal. And is it going to cause major structural damage? I don't think so, but there could be some overwash. And another car driving past. I was trying to get the Google Maps to pop up, but my laptop is not cooperating. Let's see if it'll let me. Maps. There it is. I just want to get you, sort of keyed into what I'm talking about here. Get rid of that. And let's zoom. Come on, cooperate with me. It helps when I have my mouse. I'm using the pointer. And there it is, still being very annoying. So let's zoom in here. We'll scroll over. And let's get rid of that little blue arrow. This is what happens when you try to do the update on the side of Highway 17. But what I want to show you here, this area of the Outer Banks is certainly vulnerable to storms. That's no secret. But it's the makeup of the area, the shape of the coastline, and just how history has shown us in the past as to what to expect. And that strong northeast wind that's just going to be buffeting the coast here, really going to pile up the water in what we call a long fetch, and it'll do so across the Pamlico and the Albemarle Sound up here. And so some areas are going to see flooding, maybe down here to Cedar Island, portions of Hatteras and Ocracoke. But right along the coast here, these longshore, what's the word I'm looking for, this long duration fetch of wind, really going to pile up the water, especially south of the Oregon Inlet here, the Pea Island area, down through Rodanthe, Waves, Avon, over to Buxton. And Buxton will be more sheltered, of course, Buxton proper, but the beach side obviously will not be. And you could have some strong easterly winds coming into here, and then the winds veer more to the northeast and north-northeast the farther away from the center you get. But then once Maria passes well off to the east, these winds will switch around and come around from the northwest and drive the Pamlico Sound into the Sound side area. Now, people out here know this is coming, generally speaking, but it's never pleasant. You got to deal with it. The road could be damaged. You could have a lot of sand on it. The DOT is going to have to come out and scrape it up, much like they do with snow in a big blizzard up in the Northeast or the Great Lakes. And in this area right here near Oregon Inlet, they are doing construction on a brand new bridge to replace the aged Bonner Bridge that's there. So, again, this is not a huge population center, but as I said before, this really matters to these people, just like we're seeing, and now I want to preface that, it's a totally different ball game, but, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Vieques, absolutely devastated from Maria, this same hurricane. And yet, the effects are obviously going to be dramatically different. That's an understatement. But the weather is going to impact the people of the Outer Banks. Nothing like what they're going through in Puerto Rico. I don't want to get that confused. I totally get it. But I'm just saying, this is going to leave the beaches more vulnerable. That'll erode the dune system. Some severe beach erosion is likely. And again, for the people that live out here and who work out here, a lot of these folks go out here into the Gulf Stream and they go fishing and they catch some of the tastiest seafood you've ever had if you're from this area and you like to visit. And again, as I mentioned in my morning update, this area is extremely popular with visitors who come down from the D.C. area. They come down from Ohio. There's a big contingency of people that like to travel to the Outer Banks from Ohio, D.C., Alexandria, Fredericksburg, and I know a lot of these people personally. So there's a big connection out here, and that's why it matters. And that's why I'm coming up here, and I'm going to set up some equipment and monitor this in real time starting tomorrow. So I just wanted to make that clear that you've got this really big wind engine sitting out here that originated from Africa as a tropical wave. It became an immense Category 5 hurricane with a pressure of 909 millibars at one point, devastating portions of the Caribbean, and now it is sitting just a couple of 100 miles, the center of it, off the coast of the Outer Banks. So you're darn right I'm interested in something like that. Who wouldn't be? As a physical geographer, and because that's technically what I am, I have a degree in geography, and a studier of meteorology and hurricane history and hurricane impacts, you bet this is definitely something that's calling my name. So just kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit of editorial commentary on what motivates me, I guess. So let's just zoom in real quick, get back to the topic at hand, maybe give you some helpful information here if you didn't already know this. Interesting that it looks to me like the storm surge watch has expanded inland just a little bit. Maybe. I'll have to go back and look at a prior update, but that's a pretty big area of eastern North Carolina under that storm surge watch, and we'll have to see if it's changed to a storm surge warning. And remember, this is new this year in terms of being operational like this. It's no longer experimental And it means that there is the possibility of life-threatening inundation from Maria, even though it's going to be well offshore. And we can see over here some of these statements, and it's really important that you read this. So you can go to the Weather Service homepage, you type in your zip code, and you look for that where it says Storm Surge Watch, Hurricane Local Statement, and it tells you these areas that are affected here. See? And these are small little towns up here. I've been to some of these as a kid and as an adult, taking my kids to some of these places. And so all the information you've got in here is very relevant and helpful to you if you live in this area. So please read that and take it very seriously. Once again, it's at the National Weather Service homepage, which is weather.gov. You put in your zip code, or you can just click on the map or whatever and find your area and read some of these different headlines. They're all there for you to make intelligent decisions and to understand what's going on. And the Hurricane Local Statement, I cannot put enough emphasis on this right here about how helpful it is in explaining what to expect, when to expect it, beginning with the situation overview to the hazards that are expected, etc. And I mean, it really does. It breaks it down. Cedar Island, Clubfoot Creek, sorry about the arrow again. The bottom line, it's not going to tell you what to expect in your driveway, but it will tell you what to expect in your general area. So please, if you're confused, you're new to the area, or you live outside of the area, you're from Ohio, D.C., Fredericksburg, and you want to know how your beloved Outer Banks is going to fare, the Hurricane Local Statement, full of information. All right? So I'm about 90 minutes away or so, maybe a little longer, from Rodanthe. I will be staying in a house out there from a very generous individual and his family that allow me to use it as kind of a hurricane lab. I will set up the anemometer on the top and of the house at the top landing. It's at least 30 feet above the ground, so really good exposure. That information will feed into our app here, Hurricane Impact. So if you already have it, then starting, I don't know, later tonight, but certainly by tomorrow when you get up, it'll be being fed live weather data. You can monitor the wind and the air pressure. I'm not expecting anything too dramatic out there, but it'll be something to monitor nonetheless. And then I will also have live cameras going, setting them up throughout the day tomorrow with the goal of those live cameras running through the day on Wednesday. And they will be I don't want to say exclusively put into the app. Once in a while, I'll tweet the links to it so people can view on a PC or whatever outside of the app. But really, this is what the app is all about. It's called Hurricane Impact for a reason. And if you've got it, you're going to have another chance to see it in action. This video, of course, goes in there. All of my Twitter updates right there. So if you've got the app, you're going to want to take a look at it. Even if you live in Texas and you bought it because of Harvey, another opportunity to see what the app is capable of as I populate the different fields with the app, with some of these live cameras in the weather station. Alrighty. Speaking of weather station, real quick, it looks like on Sunday, I'm going to catch a flight to Fort Lauderdale, rent a vehicle, and then go down and retrieve the weather station from the Vaca Pass Bridge in Marathon. And we're going to see, because if you remember that during Irma, the transmission cut out in terms of the live feed, not because of equipment failure from us, but rather the whole network went down. However, the weather data kept recording onto a micro SD card in high resolution, meaning that it was every minute for probably a couple of days, even after Irma's landfall. And I have got to see that. So that's coming up Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and I'm going to take you with me as much as the network will allow down there if everything's back up and, in working order, and we will go and see as I retrieve the equipment from Florida. That will be in Marathon and over in Naples and Marco Island. So the hurricane season continues. Lots of work to do. This is my job. What else am I going to do, right? I love doing this. I love reporting and giving people an inside look. I don't love the effects. I feel for the people who have been impacted deeply. I have met new people because of it. I cherish those friendships, but I certainly know what it means to have to go through one of these disasters. And like I said, one more time, even a moderate impact event to the Outer Banks of North Carolina really does matter, especially in the grand scheme of things. It starts to really become cumulative, so we have to keep it all in perspective because it all starts to add up. And when the beaches are vulnerable like that and you get a big event, it can make it even worse. All right, so that's it for me for tonight. I appreciate you listening, especially with some of this sort of aside and commentary and editorializing, but you know, this is more than a business to me. It's personal, and I really appreciate that people depend on me. So I just want to put that out there. All right, I'm going to shut up so I can keep driving and get to Rodanthe before too late and get to work on things. All righty? Have a good rest of your night. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. I'll have more for you with a video update starting tomorrow morning.